The 30th anniversary of Mortal Kombat is right around the corner, and some channels do believe we're gonna get something big on that date. Whether it's a gameplay trailer, a cinematic trailer, or even a simple teaser of the logo, we're getting something. Now, do I personally think we're getting something on the anniversary? I'm not entirely sure. We're getting the Snowblind movie, and that could be all we get for now until close to the end of the year. In a recent Q&A session, Ed Boon did loosely imply they may be showing something at the Game Awards, which is happening in December, so do I think we're getting anything before then? My gut says no, in all honesty, but I've been wrong before. I never thought we would get a story expansion for Mortal Kombat 11, and we definitely did. I also didn't think the leaks for Kombat Pack 3 were legit either. I thought the idea of getting Rambo in Mortal Kombat was absurd, and Mileena too. Come on, I can't be that lucky. But once again, I was wrong. We got both those things. Rambo and Mortal Kombat? Yep. A story expansion? Yep. All of it. So put simply, I could be wrong here too. Even though I don't think we're gonna get anything on the anniversary of Mortal Kombat, we certainly still could. So let me know in the comments section if you think we're gonna get anything on October 8th. And also, what do you think it's gonna be? Do you think we're gonna get a full gameplay trailer, or is it gonna be a cinematic trailer like Mortal Kombat X, or is it going to be a simple teaser like the logo or a character render? Let me know in the comments below, because I think if we get anything, it's going to be simple, like when Kazuya smiled for Tekken 8. That got everybody hype, and it's all we needed. Alright, now on to the main focus of this video. A while ago, there was a data mine for Mortal Kombat 11, and it revealed there was a lot of content that was cut from the game, which is honestly interesting because Mortal Kombat 11 has way more content than most modern fighting games, especially when it comes to the offline elements. You have the crypt to explore, you have the challenge towers that are constantly changing on a daily and weekly basis, and you even have a lengthy story mode that was expanded on with the DLC, so lots of offline content. But the developers absolutely wanted to add more to the game. For example, there was going to be a crypt expansion that included the living forest. You can find this in the data. And then most interesting of all, there was going to be more characters, with a total of 40 characters or so, which would mean we have a perfect rectangle for the roster, which a lot of players did assume was going to be the final shape of the character select screen. All of these things were planned, however, unfortunately, a lot of things happened that slowed down the production of Mortal Kombat 11. First up, we had the lockdowns, which forced the developers to work from home and slowed down things immensely, but even before that, we had the drama about crunch at NetherRealm Studios. Many of the employees were working absurdly long hours, and in their defense, that's not unusual for gaming, but that doesn't make it right. Even if every game developer company is doing it, that doesn't make it okay. And once NetherRealm got called out for this, they slowed things down. So there was that, and then also the lockdown and other things all happening at once. And that's very likely why all this content got cut from Mortal Kombat 11. But today, I want to discuss which characters were planned for this final DLC. Please post in the comments which characters you wanted the most for Mortal Kombat 11, and let's get into this. First up, we have Ermac. This character seems the most likely to be planned because he got a brand new design. Your boy was looking slick in his new threads. It was an awesome new costume design, and everybody would have loved to play as him. And it wasn't just concept art or a screenshot. The man was fully animated in the crypt, which meant he had a rig skeleton as well. The boy could be animated to do attacks. So when you factor in all those variables, it seems very likely that Ermac was a planned DLC character, because why else would they give him a brand new design? Characters like Reptile can also be found in the crypt, but he does not have a new costume, which means he was likely not planned as DLC. He's just a fun guy running around the crypt. However, at the same time, the data mining did find a secret fight in the code, and many do theorize it could be a secret Reptile fight, so who knows, maybe at one point he was planned too. But my point is, why would the developers go out of their way to design and create a full 3D model with textures for Ermac if he wasn't going to be playable in some form? And next up, let's talk about Havoc. This guy shows up several times in Mortal Kombat 11, whether it's an arcade ending or even being name dropped in story mode. Sometimes when a character is brought up in dialogue, that's all it is. Like during intros, for example, Cobra is name dropped, but I doubt he was ever planned to be a playable character. However, I think Havoc is the exception because he's not just in the intro dialogues, he's also in Joker's arcade ending. And not just in the background, no, he is up front and center for several of the images that happened during that final cinematic. And keep in mind that Joker is also a DLC character, so that could also point to the fact that it's one DLC character introducing another DLC character. And then finally, as the last piece of evidence, we have the Aftermath story mode, where the characters just straight up name drop Havoc. The developers have said that intro dialogues are not always canon, they're just fun what-if scenarios every now and then, but this happens in story mode, which means Havoc is canon in this timeline and he's actively doing stuff. And that's why I do think it's very likely that Havoc was planned as a DLC character. Now, we don't have any concept art or character models for for him, but I do think he was planned. So I'm not saying he has any character models out there or that he's a playable character in the code somewhere. No, none of that. But I do think at one point he was planned as a DLC character. Now this next character is a bit of a Hail Mary, okay? So just humor me here. But we know for a fact that the crypt was going to have an expansion, and this expansion was going to be the Living Forest. And I want you to think back to the original 3 games. Who shows up in the Living Forest as a secret character? That's right, it's your boy Smoke. It is very possible that Smoke was planned to be released along with the Crypt expansion DLC. You get his stage and his area in the crypt, and you can also play as him at the same time. Because keep in mind, Smoke is very, very popular. I think his fan base is only second to the Melina fan base. They're very big and they love the character. And as a result, I would not be shocked if Smoke was a planned DLC character just like Havoc. You're not going to find any character models or concept art, but I do think he was planned. And whoa, I almost missed something big, the non-playable characters. This includes Sector, Cyrax, and even Kronika, and actually even Fire God Liu Kang. These characters were all rumored to be planned DLC at one point in time. And there's plenty of valid reasons why players felt this way. For starters, you can straight up play as Fire God Liu Kang in story mode, so why wouldn't he be a fully playable character at some point in the future, or at the very least playable outside of story mode in some sort of challenge tower or something to that effect. And then we have Kronika, who seems the least likely to be a playable character because she's a boss, but keep in mind, you can easily mod the game and she has an entire move list that you can play with your controller, which does seem pretty interesting to include if she was never planned as a playable character. Once again, would she be allowed in competitive things like Combat League? Maybe not, but having her be playable in a challenge tower seems very likely, and I wouldn't be shocked if that was planned. And finally, we have Cyrax and Sector. These 2 characters were the most likely to be planned DLC, because a lot of people keep talking about how there was said to be no NPCs before the game got released, which I do believe is true. It's hard to find the video footage, but I do believe somebody said at one point that there would not be any characters in the game that you fight but can't play as. I do believe somebody said that. However, unfortunately, when Mortal Kombat 11 launched, you could not play as Cyrax or Sector, but you could fight them in story mode, and their attacks were identical to Mortal Kombat X, just straight up copy and paste it. But the thing is, these characters have brand new designs, just like Ermac, so I do think it's very likely they were planned to be DLC characters, and once again, just like Kronika, you can mod the game to play them, and they have an entire move list. So if we take into account that these characters have brand new designs, and that a developer did say there would not be any NPCs in Mortal Kombat 11, then it's very likely that both Cyrax and Sector were planned to be DLC. And the thought of that makes me the most depressed because I love cyborg characters, and I think leaving them out of any Mortal Kombat game is a crime because they're just so popular in the fan base and they're just so Mortal Kombat, you know? The science fiction element of Mortal Kombat set it apart from other fighting games back in the day, and as a result, I think we need the cyborgs to represent the science fiction aspect of Mortal Kombat in every single game going forward. I definitely do think that Cyrax and Sector were planned. I feel this one in my bones, but once again, there were so many slowdowns and complications that affected NetherRealm, so they just didn't make it. Now, as for Kronika and Fire God Liu Kang, I'm a bit more iffy on. Kronika especially, I don't think was going to be a DLC character, or if she was, it was barely talked about and not really planned. And as for Fire God Liu Kang, I don't think he would ever escape a special challenge tower or some sort of like non-competitive mode. I don't think he would ever be in Combat League. And then finally, for the last 2 characters, we have Takeda and Kung Jin, the only combat kids who are missing from the roster, which is weird to this day. Because keep in mind, the combat kids were introduced to be legacy characters, so it makes sense they would be in the next game, but nope, 2 of them were just absent. And even more confusing, we got Jackie instead. And don't get me wrong, I love Jackie. She was one of my favorite characters to play in the game because she's just that much fun, but when it comes to popularity, she does not hold a candle to Takeda or Kung Jin. And as a result, I would be shocked if these characters were not planned as DLC, especially because Takeda gets name dropped a lot in the intro dialogues. And on top of that, just like Havoc, he also appears in an arcade ending, so I do think Takeda was planned for sure. Now, as for Kung Jin, it's a bit less likely because he's not nearly as popular, but at the same time, it would be weird to leave out one of the combat kids for no reason. And not to mention, he's the only LGBT character in the group, so leaving him out would be a pretty bad idea as far as the Twitter horde is concerned, and NetherRealm does kowtow to them quite a lot, which I'm not gonna lie, that bothers me because Twitter's not a real place and their power is greatly exaggerated, but NetherRealm is definitely scared of the Twitter mobs, so I don't think they would exclude Kung Jin as the only combat kid. I think he'd get to be in if Takeda got to be in. At the very least, he would have to show up in a friendship like Melina does, right? Maybe when Takeda wins a match and does friendship, Kung Jin comes in and high-fives him, something like that, but he has to be in the game. Alright, and there you have it, everyone. The planned DLC for Mortal Kombat 11 that never happened, which is unfortunate, but you know what? At the very least, it's very fun to speculate, and the data mining does confirm that a final DLC pack was planned, but just never got around to happening. So once again, post in the comments who you wanted wanted to see in Mortal Kombat 11 the most, and you know what? I'm hoping they make it into Mortal Kombat 12 for you. If you enjoyed this video and my commentary, then please leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a ton, and then keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell, that way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs. A little voice crack there, a little voice crack.